The day the sky turned black, the galaxy had lived in peace for many generations. The great council worlds glittered with light, trade ships drifted between stars, and the young races believed the age of war was over. They had forgotten the time when one small blue world had shaken the heavens. They had forgotten the name Earth far away on the edge of a quiet sector. Scanners aboard the Varelian Observatory picked up something strange. A shadow larger than a moon drifting through deep space, it moved with silent purpose. No signal, no identification, only darkness. At first they thought it was a derelict station or an asteroid. But it was too smooth, too deliberate, too alive. The officers watched their monitors as the image grew clearer. A massive shape reflecting no light. The senior observer, a pale-scaled Varelian named Kestra, frowned as the readings came in. "It's metal," she whispered. "And it's coming straight toward us." Her assistant laughed nervously. "Maybe it's another Dominion transport." But Kestra shook her head. No transponder, no beacon, nothing. The silence from the object was louder than any threat. Word reached the Galactic Council within hours. Delegates of hundreds of species filled the great chamber. Holograms flickered, maps spun, and debates turned to chaos. Some called it a natural body. Others said it was a new kind of stealth ship from the Zelnari Dominion. But a few old historians went pale when the first close-up image arrived. There was a symbol on the hull, burned and faded, but still visible. A blue and white emblem of a planet with wings. The old historian from the Terran archive stood trembling, his voice shaking as he said, "That's human." The chamber fell silent. Everyone stared at the projection. "Impossible," the Chancellor of the Terran Union hissed. "Humans vanished 1,000 years ago." But the historian's eyes were filled with fear. Vanished, yes, but maybe not destroyed. Across the council worlds, panic began to ripple. News networks replayed the image of the colossal ship. Commentators spoke of the old legends. The Deathworlders who lived on the most hostile planet in the known universe. Beings who built cities on volcanoes and walked through radiation storms. Humanity and the species that never surrendered. The alien empires had always dismissed those stories as myths. Bedtime tales told to frighten soldiers, but now, with the dark ship moving closer to inhabited systems, no one was laughing. Fleets began to mobilize. Trade routes shut down, and entire planets looked to their skies in fear. As the massive ship approached the rim planet of Tarsus IV, its shadow swallowed the horizon. The sun dimmed and night fell at noon. Children pointed upward as a black ocean of metal covered the stars. The people screamed, praying it would pass, but it stopped perfectly still above the capital. The Tarsus defense fleet scrambled into formation. Small frigates and cruisers rising like sparks beside a mountain. They sent transmissions, identification codes, emergency frequencies, even pleas for peace, but the ship did not answer. Its silence was colder than vacuum. Then, after long minutes of stillness, light began to crawl along its hull. Thin glowing lines tracing ancient human patterns, forming runes of power. The entire surface shimmered like a living heartbeat. Sensors on every ship failed instantly. Communications went dead. Screens turned white, and engines powered down one by one. The Tarsus fleet floated helpless, their systems fried by an invisible wave. On the ground, the sky pulsed once, and the name on the hull became visible in massive letters. UNS Leviathan. The crowd below gasped. No one knew what it meant, but the old scholars whispered the word Terran. They remembered the name from forbidden texts. Inside the ship, behind thick armored glass, Commander Elena Voss stood silently at the command deck, her dark eyes reflecting the alien planet below. She looked calm, composed, her uniform bearing the same faded crest. Beside her, an officer spoke. "Commander, they're panicking," she nodded slowly. "Good," she said. "It means they remember fear." Her voice was soft but cold. Every crew member felt the weight of her words. "Activate orbit lock," she ordered. "We hold position." The Leviathan's engines dimmed to a quiet hum, as if a sleeping giant had taken a breath. Back on Tarsus IV, the Council sent desperate messages, demanding to know who commanded the warship. "Identify yourself." This is a peaceful world. Their transmissions echoed unanswered through space, until finally a single reply came through. A simple, calm human voice filled every communicator. "This system is now under Terran protection." The galaxy froze. No one dared to speak. The council chamber went dead silent. The phrase was ancient. The same line once used by Earth's fleets during the Age of Expansion. It was a declaration, not a threat, a warning that humanity had returned to claim what was once theirs. In that moment, as the Leviathan's silhouette eclipsed the sun, every being in the galaxy felt a tremor of something forgotten. Not hatred, not curiosity, but pure primal fear. Because deep in their memories, written in the bones of every race that had ever faced the humans, was a truth they had buried long ago. When Earth moves, the galaxy trembles, and now, after 1,000 years of silence, the Deathworlders were awake once more, and the day the sky turned black was only the beginning. The forgotten name. The Galactic Council sat in stunned silence, the air thick with disbelief and fear. The words, "This system is under Terran protection," echoed across the great chamber like a ghost from an ancient war. For centuries, humans were nothing but whispers. Stories told by soldiers to explain why some empires vanished without a trace. Now that voice had returned. Calm, steady and absolute across the stars, panic spread faster than light. The great empires that once ruled without challenge suddenly felt small. The Zelnari Dominion, known for its arrogance and cruelty, called an emergency war council. Their emperor's scaled face twisted with anger as he shouted, "The humans are extinct! This is an illusion! A trick of the rebels." But deep inside, even he remembered the old name. Deathworlders. Beings who could survive where no other life could breathe. Beings who fought not for conquest, but for vengeance and justice on the rim planet Tarsus IV. The people had gathered in the streets, staring at the black shape above the sky. Rumors spread that it was a ghost ship. Others whispered it was Earth's revenge. The military tried to calm them, but every system on their ships remained dead. Nothing worked. No signal, no control. It was as if the human ship had silenced the very stars. Inside the Leviathan, Commander Elena Voss stood before the central display, the holographic map of the galaxy glowing faintly in the dim light. Her officers waited for her command. Her voice was quiet but carried across the deck. "Transmit the archive," she ordered. Her crew hesitated. "Are you sure, Commander?" one asked. "Once we send it, they'll all know." She nodded. "They already fear our name. Let them remember why." Moments later, every major broadcast network across the galaxy flickered. News channels, holoscreens, and even personal devices cut to static. Then an image appeared of the flag of Earth, blue and white, turning slowly in silence. A calm voice began to speak. "Transmission from United Nations ship Leviathan to the Galactic Council and all systems under their control. This is not a declaration of war. This is a reminder." The screen shifted, showing images from ancient history, cities burning, human colonies bombarded, civilians enslaved by alien empires. The footage was raw, unfiltered, and horrifying. The message continued. "You called us monsters. You took our worlds. You silenced our children. But we endured. We survived the death world. We built ships from the bones of our planet, and now we return, not to conquer, but to protect what was stolen." Billions watched in silence. Some with guilt, others with awe, some even cried, realizing the stories were true. Humanity had not been destroyed. They had simply gone quiet, rebuilding in the shadows of dark space, waiting for the right moment to return. At the council, chaos erupted again. Diplomats screamed. Some demanded immediate attack. Others begged for negotiation. But no one could decide, because the truth was too heavy. If humans had survived, they could not be fought. The last records described fleets that burned entire armadas, soldiers that fought even when mortally wounded, scientists who turned dying stars into weapons. Meanwhile, on the Leviathan, Elena Voss stood before a sealed glass chamber. Inside floated a cryopod with an old Terran flag folded against it. She placed her hand on the glass, whispering softly. For those who never came home, her second in command. Lieutenant Eric approached carefully. "Commander, the council is transmitting a response." She turned slowly. "Patch it through." A dozen alien faces appeared on the screen. The council speaker, a tall insectoid creature, began with trembling mandibles. "Terran vessel, state your purpose. Humanity has no claim here. Your kind vanished long ago." Elena's expression did not change. "We vanished because you erased us from your records," she said, her voice calm. "But our people survived beyond the galactic rim. We built cities in the black. We waited, and now we have returned to bring home what was taken." The speaker tried to sound confident. "Your threats mean nothing. The galaxy stands united." Elena smiled faintly. "United in fear," she replied. You stand united because you remember the cost of underestimating Earth. The screen cut off before the Council could answer. Across the sectors, old Terran sympathizers began to emerge, small groups who had kept human relics hidden. They whispered prayers to the stars, sending coded messages of loyalty. Earth rises, they said, a phrase that spread like wildfire across hidden networks on the border worlds. The Dominion spies sent reports of colonies switching allegiance, frightened captains abandoning posts, even fleets retreating from human-claimed sectors. Every alien commander knew one truth. The humans did not bluff. They never did that night as Leviathan orbited silently above Tarsus 4. Its surface glowed faintly under starlight. Commander Voss stood at the viewing bay. Her crew gathered behind her. One of them finally asked, "Commander, what now?" She looked out over the stars and answered softly, "Now we make them remember our name." In that moment, the galaxy changed. The name Terran returned to every star map, whispered with fear and awe from the Council's golden worlds to the darkest trade routes. The forgotten name of Earth rose again, and the echoes of old wars began to stir. Because the humans had not come for revenge, they had come for justice, and this time, the galaxy would tremble for real. The message of fire. Silence hung across the galaxy like a storm waiting to break. The great empires held their breath as the Leviathan remained above Tarsus 4, unmoving, unyielding like a mountain of metal and vengeance. The Galactic Council tried to reason, tried to threaten, tried to bribe, but the humans did not answer again. Their silence became the loudest sound in the stars. In the high chambers of the Zelnari Dominion, the Emperor himself stood before his war council. His scaled face lit by the red glow of the strategy table, he slammed a clawed hand down and hissed, "They think they can frighten us with ancient myths." He turned toward his admirals. "Assemble a task force, 30 of our finest warships. I want that Terran ghost burned to dust." His generals bowed quickly, but their eyes betrayed fear. They remembered the old stories. Fleets vanishing in minutes, weapons melting under human fire, soldiers whispering about ships that moved faster than light could blink. Within hours, the Dominion fleet gathered near the Tarsus system. 30 massive warships forming a crescent of power. Their engines burned bright blue, their weapons armed and locked. They advanced with confidence. A spectacle of pride and arrogance, the Council broadcasted the operation live, calling it a show of strength against ancient ghosts. The galaxy watched eagerly, desperate to believe that the humans could be defeated. But on the Leviathan's bridge, Commander Elena Voss stood in silence, watching the enemy formation grow on her holographic display. Lieutenant Eric spoke softly beside her. 30 ships, Commander, full Dominion class. They're locking weapons." Elena's expression didn't change. "Let them come," she whispered, her hand tightening behind her back. "They've forgotten what it means to face humanity." The first shot came from the Dominion flagship, a beam of plasma light streaking across the void, bright enough to be seen from the surface of Tarsus. The people screamed as the beam struck the Leviathan's hull and vanished. No explosion, no impact, the energy was simply absorbed. The alien commanders panicked, firing again and again. Every shot disappeared into the black armor as if swallowed by the night. Then the Leviathan moved slowly, deliberately, engines awakening like the growl of an ancient beast. A deep vibration spread through space itself. The Dominion ship's scanners went wild, unable to measure its power output. "What is this?" one alien captain cried, his voice shaking. "It's bending our sensors. It's impossible." Commander Voss finally spoke, her voice echoing across every Dominion frequency. Calm, steady, unshakable. "We offered peace once. You answered with fire," she said. "So now, we answer with memory." The Leviathan's hull began to glow, lines of molten orange light tracing across its surface, forming the pattern of old Earth's defense sigils. Then, without a sound, a pulse of light burst outward. Not a weapon of destruction, but domination. Every Dominion ship froze mid-flight, their engines dead, their shields gone, their weapons melting under their own heat. Panic erupted across enemy channels. "Our systems are gone. Reactor offline. Weapons disarmed." And yet not a single ship exploded. Not a single life was lost. The human weapon was not meant to kill. It was meant to teach. Every monitor across the Dominion fleet suddenly flickered. The insignia of Earth appeared, and then images, ancient and raw, of human cities turned to ash by alien bombardments, of Terran soldiers fighting with bare hands, of children crying beneath alien flags. The Dominion crews watched in silence as the truth of their ancestors' crimes played before their eyes. The voice of Commander Voss returned, softer now, almost mournful. "We remember every world that burned. Every colony you took, every life you erased," she said. "We are not here to destroy you. We are here to remind you of what you made us become." Across the galaxy, millions watched the transmission. The footage reached every screen, from the council chambers to remote outposts. And for the first time in thousands of years, the truth of humanity's suffering could not be denied. Empires that once mocked Earth now faced their own guilt. Silence spread through the stars like a wound reopening. On the Leviathan's bridge, Elena closed her eyes for a moment. She could feel the weight of every lost generation behind her, the voice of her ancestors echoing through her veins. "We built our strength not from hate," she whispered, "but from pain." The Dominion fleet floated helplessly. Their admiral trembling, he finally ordered, "Withdraw. Withdraw now!" His voice breaking, his ships scattered like frightened insects. The once proud Dominion retreating from a single Terran warship. As the last enemy vessel vanished into hyperspace, Lieutenant Arik turned to Elena. "Commander, we could have destroyed them easily," he said quietly. She nodded. "That's not the message we came to send," she replied. "If they forget mercy again, then we'll remind them what fire truly means." The ship's communication array hummed softly, transmitting one final message to every corner of the galaxy. "This is the United Nations ship Leviathan. Humanity has returned. We seek peace, but we will not kneel. Every world we once called ours will be free again." On Tarsus 4, people fell to their knees, tears streaming down their faces as they looked up at the giant ship glowing in orbit. Some whispered prayers, others shouted the word Earth into the night. And in the dark corners of the galaxy, long-forgotten human descendants heard that message and looked to the stars, their hearts burning with hope, because for the first time in living memory, they knew the Death Worlders had not come to conquer. They had come to awaken the galaxy from its own lies, and the message of fire was only the beginning, the return of the Death Worlders. The galaxy was no longer calm. Every system buzzed with fear, awe, and confusion. The name Earth was once again being spoken in council chambers. In markets, in classrooms, whispered in fear and reverence alike. Some called the humans saviors, others called them a threat. But everyone agreed on one thing. Nothing would ever be the same again. On the barren world of Vetra 9, once a Terran colony now ruled by the Dominion, the news of the Leviathan's return spread like wildfire. Miners and slaves, many of them descendants of those captured humans, stopped working. They looked at the sky, their eyes filled with a hope they had never dared to feel. In the slave camps, old songs were whispered again, songs about oceans and mountains, songs of a planet they had never seen, but one that still lived in their blood. Commander Elena Voss stood before her crew in the Leviathan's war room, the holographic map of the galaxy glowing before them. Red dots marked every system where humanity once had a colony, most now under alien control. They scattered our people, enslaved them, erased our history, she said, her voice calm but sharp. "We are here to bring them home." Her crew stood silent, every face lit by determination. They were soldiers born in exile, raised on worlds of ash and steel, children of a species that refused to die. Lieutenant Arik stepped forward. "Commander, our scans show life signs on the surface of Vetra 9. Mostly human genetic signatures." Elena turned toward him. "Then that's where we go next," she said. "Prepare a landing team." The Leviathan descended through the clouds of Vetra 9 like a storm, its engines cutting through the toxic mist. As it touched down on the dark plains, the alien overseers ran for their ships. The human slaves stared in disbelief, their eyes wide as they saw the old Terran flag glowing on the ship's hull. One of the older men fell to his knees, whispering, "They came back." "They actually came back." Elena led her soldiers down the ramp, armored in dark silver suits that gleamed under the stormlight. When the nearest overseer tried to draw a weapon, one of her soldiers raised his hand. A pulse of light disarmed the alien instantly. No blood was spilled. No violence was needed. Elena walked past them, her gaze fixed on the trembling humans before her. She removed her helmet, her dark hair whipping in the wind. "We are Terran," she said softly. "We are home." A silence followed, then a young boy stepped forward, his voice shaking. "You came for us." Elena smiled faintly. "We never forgot you," she replied. "And we never will again." The crowd erupted into tears, cheers, and prayers. The forgotten children of Earth embraced their rescuers like lost family. The sight was broadcast across the galaxy within minutes, and it changed everything. On dozens of alien worlds, human descendants began to rise. They refused to obey their alien masters, chanting the same words, "On Earth rises." It was no longer a whisper. It became a roar that echoed from one sector to another. Old Terran weapons hidden for generations were unearthed. Rebellions flared across slave colonies, and for the first time in centuries, alien rulers found themselves powerless before the strength of human unity. In the Galactic Council, chaos reigned. Empires accused each other of hiding Terran survivors. Alliances shattered, and fear consumed every senator. If the humans are freeing colonies, the balance of power will fall. One shouted, another trembled. We must negotiate before they bring their fleets. But the truth was clear. Humanity didn't need fleets. They only needed belief back aboard the Leviathan. Elena watched the reports of uprisings spreading across the stars. She knew what would come next. Retaliation. She turned to her crew. The Council will call for our destruction, she said. They always do when they can't control the truth. Moments later, an incoming transmission appeared. The Council speaker's image flickered on screen. His voice cold. Commander Voss, your actions are destabilizing the galaxy. You are in violation of peace accords. Elena tilted her head slightly. Peace accords, she repeated. You mean the laws written by those who erased us from history? The speaker stuttered. If you continue this rebellion, we will unleash the Dominion Armada upon you. Elena's calm expression never changed. Then send them, she said quietly. Let the galaxy watch who truly stands for peace. The transmission cut off. The council chamber descended into silence as her words echoed back at them. Outside, the Leviathan lifted once more into orbit, its engines leaving a glowing trail across the dark sky. Commander Voss stood at the window, looking down at the liberated colony below. They called us Death Worlders, she whispered. Because we survived what they couldn't, but we are more than that. We are what they fear most. The reminder that freedom cannot be erased. Her crew stood behind her in quiet pride, the stars stretching before them like a battlefield and a promise. Each world they freed was another spark, and together, those sparks began to form a fire too bright to extinguish. The galaxy trembled not from war, but from awakening. The Death Worlders had returned, and this time they carried not vengeance, but purpose. To remind the stars that humanity was never the monster they feared, but the light they had lost, and somewhere deep in the shadows watching the chaos unfold. The Zelnari Emperor clenched his fists, whispering to himself, "So the humans rise again. Then we will burn their hope before it spreads." His words slithered into the dark. But the humans had already proven one thing across time and history. Hope was the one fire no empire could ever extinguish. The Death Worlders were rising, and the galaxy had only begun to feel the tremor of their return. When the galaxy trembled, the Zelnari Dominion gathered its armada at the edge of the Vetra system. Hundreds of warships glimmered like a metallic storm under the dying light of a red sun. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a planet. The Dominion Emperor stood on the bridge of his flagship, his voice a cold whisper of hatred. Erase them from existence, burn their world, scatter their ashes among the stars. His command echoed through every channel, a death sentence for the Terrans across the void. The UNS Leviathan floated in silence, orbiting the newly freed colony, its hull dark and calm, like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. Inside, Commander Elena Voss stood before her crew, her face steady, her voice low. "They're coming," she said, "and they will not stop, but neither will we." Her officers looked to her with quiet trust, each one ready to die if needed, but none afraid. They were Death Worlders, children of a planet that forged strength from pain. The scanners lit up. Wave after wave of enemy ships appeared. The stars themselves seemed to vanish under their sheer number. Lieutenant Auric whispered, "Hundreds of them." "Commander," Elena nodded. "Good," she said. "Let them see what they fear." Her fingers hovered above the command console. "All systems to combat readiness," she ordered, and the Leviathan awoke. The black ship's surface pulsed with crimson light, ancient Terran runes glowing like veins of living fire. Its engines roared, sending waves of energy across space. Smaller ships nearby struggled to stabilize their flight. The Dominion fleet opened fire first, a rain of plasma bolts and missiles that filled the void with blinding light. Explosions rippled across the Leviathan's shields. Yet the Terran ship didn't flinch, it didn't retreat. It absorbed everything like a mountain standing in a storm. Inside the council chambers far away, thousands of delegates watched in horror as the battle broadcasted across the galactic network. The Leviathan stood alone against the might of the Dominion, and yet, as the smoke cleared, it was still there, untouched, calm, unbroken. Elena raised her hand. "Return fire," she said quietly, and the stars obeyed. A single beam lanced out from the Leviathan's hull, a streak of white light that split the darkness like the hand of a god. The first Dominion ship vanished, no explosion. No debris, only silence. The others began to retreat. But the Leviathan didn't pursue. It simply unleashed another wave. Precise, controlled, unstoppable. The human ship was not fighting a war. It was delivering a lesson as the enemy fleet burned. The Council received a direct feed. Commander Voss appeared on every galactic screen. Her face calm, her eyes steady behind her. The stars glowed red from battle. She spoke softly, but her voice carried through every world. "Humanity does not seek conquest," she said. "We seek remembrance. You feared us because we would not break. You erased us because we would not kneel. But now the galaxy knows the truth. We endured." Her words spread faster than light, reaching even the darkest corners of forgotten colonies. Human descendants raised their fists, alien allies watched in silence, and old enemies lowered their weapons because something deeper than fear filled their hearts. Respect. The Zelnari Emperor screamed in rage as his fleet fell apart. "They cannot win. One ship cannot destroy an empire." But even as he shouted, his command vessel shook. Alarms blared, and his screens filled with human symbols. Elena's voice came through his bridge speakers, cold and final. "The war is over, Emperor," she said. "Stand down, or vanish like those who came before you." His claws trembled, his eyes wide. "What are you?" he hissed, and her reply was simple. "We are human." Moments later, his flagship vanished into light. Not destroyed by hatred, but by precision, by justice, by the cold truth that the galaxy had underestimated humanity for the last time. When the battle ended, the stars fell silent. Debris drifted like dust, and the Leviathan hovered alone, its hull glowing faintly with golden light, a beacon in the endless dark on the surface of Vetra 9. The freed humans and aliens looked up and saw the massive Terran ship illuminated against the sky. They knelt not in fear but in reverence because, for the first time in 1,000 years, they understood what the name Earth truly meant. Commander Voss stood at the viewing deck, her reflection merging with the stars. Lieutenant Arik approached quietly. "Commander, the Council is requesting talks," he said. "They want peace." She didn't smile, but her eyes softened. "Peace is earned," she said, "and it begins with truth." She turned away from the window. "Prepare the next course. There are still colonies waiting." As the Leviathan's engines flared, the galaxy watched in silence. The Council sent out an official declaration. Humanity has returned. But even their words could not capture what had truly changed, because deep within every world, every mind, a new memory had taken root, a memory that would never fade again. The galaxy would tell this story for generations, of the day the Deathworlders came back not as monsters, not as conquerors, but as guardians of justice, their ship a symbol of endurance, their name a whisper of power. And when the last echoes of battle faded, only one truth remained. When Earth's warship entered orbit, the galaxy trembled, and humanity rose from legend to destiny.